Good morning. My name is Paul Craney. I'm the spokesperson for the Fiscal Alliance Foundation. We're very happy that you're able to join us, and we'll go over some of the outline for why we're here today. But the Fiscal Alliance Foundation is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization whose mission is to promote individual liberty and a more fiscally responsible, transparent government for a better New England through education and legal assistance. The Fiscal Alliance Foundation commissioned a study that deals with inflation in Massachusetts. The study was done by the Beacon Hill Institute. Unfortunately, no one from BHI is able to join us today. However, if you do have some technical questions that I'm not able to answer, just shoot me an email and I will relay to BHI and get you an answer after this call ASAP. The study was done in late spring, so some of the data is from all the way from March and May. You'll see a lot of those data points. Primarily, though, the inflation numbers are contrasting March data of this year compared to March data of last year. I'm just going to outline a little bit about what was in the study, but I do want to acknowledge that we have some speakers that will speak after me. And this is the order that they'll speak, and then we'll do a little Q&A. Agawam City Councilor CC Calabrese will speak first, then State Representative David DeCoste, then State Representative Nick Boldiga, then State Representative Kelly Pease, and lastly, State Representative Steve Zarhost. And then we'll take some Q&A. But you should all receive a copy of the study along with our press statement. The study found that inflation in the state's energy sector specifically has outpaced the national average. This is especially timely information in light of the State House leaders making a big push to electrify homes, businesses, and the transportation sectors. The BHI study found that Massachusetts electricity prices have increased by over 14.5% compared to the increase in national electricity prices of just over 11.1%. The study looked at data from the Boston metro area and found that the top 5 goods to increase in prices are gasoline by 54%, used cars and trucks by 37%, natural gas by 27%, the cost of transportation services by 21%, and as I mentioned, electricity costs by 14.5%. You'll see in the study that nationally, there's a data point for home heating oil that has increased by 70%, 70% nationally. Unfortunately, Massachusetts doesn't have good data for that in our state because it's such a small amount. So I don't have data for that, but you can probably guess that it's going to be something similar in Massachusetts. Nationally, during that same period of time, gasoline prices have only increased by 48%. So again, this is now national compared to state. Used cars and trucks by 35.3%. Natural gas by 21.6%. And transportation services by 7.7%. Obviously, those are all very high, but it does show that Massachusetts on those top 5 goods are outpacing nationally. You'll see in the study during the opening and the conclusion and the section about Massachusetts data, you will see a sentence or two in there how overall inflation in Massachusetts has not been outpaced nationally, but it's safe to assume that those top 5 goods that I outlined make up a majority of what people spend money on. While inflation remains persistent, the study did offer suggestions for the state to follow. The study warned an income tax increase on top earners and small businesses would bring unintended harm to the state economy that is likely facing a inflation-induced recession, and obviously that is a big topic this week. The study warned the income tax increase proposal would specifically harm businesses and struggling taxpayers who are hit the hardest from inflation. The tax revenues continue to soar. The study warned the state must avoid further unnecessarily burdening its constituents who are struggling to keep up with record inflation. The state coffers are swelling. The study urged lawmakers to consider providing immediate relief by helping their constituents combat record inflation. And the study concluded that one place to start, in addition to giving back money, is to abandon the proposal for an income tax hike on high income earners and some small businesses. So those are my comments. I do want to open up to, again, CC Calabrese, the city councilor from Agawam, which is west of Springfield, State Rep David DeCoste from Norwell, State Rep Nick Boldiga from Southwick, then State Rep Kelly Peace from Westfield, and lastly, State Rep Steve Zarhos from Barnstable. I will mention, though, the timing of this is pretty relevant, considering there's a lot of debate right now if we're going to have technically recession, and also that the State House has still not released out of their conference committee their tax relief proposal. I would argue that tax relief proposal is pretty milquetoast. It's not going to do much to help taxpayers, but something is better than nothing, and nothing has gone before the governor for his signature as of right now. So CC Calabrese, City Councilor from Agawam, you have about 2 or 3 minutes to kind of share a few words, and then we'll keep it moving. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have been serving on the City Council I'm in my 9th term now. And so my constituents know that they can come and talk to me about anything. And the things that are really near and dear to their heart every day are the price of gas and diesel, the price of fuel. So many times I have people telling me, geez, I can't quite fill up my car because I need to buy gas, eggs, and milk all in the same day, all in the same week. Just for an example, in my area, those of you who might not be familiar with Western Massachusetts, I'm talking west of the Connecticut River, we have a very agrarian background. Our foundation is in farming, construction, the blue collar trades, manufacturing. F-150s are one of the more popular vehicles that you will see out here. And in fact, my husband drives one, and just yesterday he filled up his truck from being empty 3/4 to full, $150 just to fill up once. So this $250 give back, while it's nice, it's always great to get money back. That's maybe a tank and a half of gas in your typical pickup truck. Other things that people out here are very concerned about, and Paul, you touched on home heating oil. In our area, there are a substantial number of homes that are heated by natural gas and home heating oil, and they're really afraid. What are we going to do when December, January, and February hit? So I wholeheartedly stand behind the notion of abandoning that graduated income tax, because it's going to do so much harm to our middle class, and particularly the people here in Western Massachusetts. And I know Representative Pease and Representative Boldiga will have more to say about that. Thank you so much.
Well, CC, I guess I will pick up after you, and thank you. I will echo that. I represent an area just south of Boston, the towns of Rockland, Hanover, and Norwell, which is comprised heavily of commuters, who, whether it be into Boston along Route 3 or up through Route 128. And I can tell you this is hitting them especially hard, particularly the large number in my area of those owners of transportation, small transportation, and those in the construction industries. This is really taking a toll on their ability to do business. And in some cases, if you talk to the long haulers, it is almost a case where things are becoming so expensive, it makes no sense to haul. Locally, we're seeing retirees and middle-class families leaving the Commonwealth as soon as the opportunity presents itself. In other words, the kids are out of school, they qualify for a pension, and they're gone, and they're moving either to New Hampshire or down to the southern states primarily. It's a big problem, and just there are many people who would like to stay here but can't afford to do so, and the standard of living that attracts them to the south leaves them much better off. I'm very concerned about the situation, what the situation will be when heating season begins, and I know the study references this. We're talking, when I talk to experts, they're now talking about the possibility of 50% or more increases once the demand on heating oil starts, really depends on where the oil industry is in terms of refining, and they're shipped from gasoline. But and keep in mind, this affects particularly those individuals who are living in manufactured homes, because on a per square footage basis, they are especially high users of this. Families are looking for ways to save, and I can tell you, I experience it here, even where we're south of the city, that when people go to New Hampshire, they make it a point to buy big ticket items up there, to fill up the gas tanks and just do business up there, because they save 5%, and 5% becomes very significant when you're buying, for instance, new tires or getting a large ticket item. That begins to add up. And I can't imagine what it's like along areas like Groton and Draycote and Pepperell. It's going to be hugely difficult for any type of retailer to stay in business there. Why would you stay in business when you can drive one town north and get a 5% advantage on anything you buy? So in brief, first of all, I want to take Paul Craney. Thank you very much, the Fiscal Alliance Foundation, and also the good folks at the Beacon Hill Institute for producing this study. It quantifies something we all knew that was going to happen, and hopefully all of these areas of concern, especially where the legislature has done so very little, maybe we can take a closer look. You mentioned that the conference committee and the tax relief proposal, maybe we can do something to beef up the current proposals and give those folks who are, whether it be the middle class, the retirees, a little bit better reason to stay in business, to stay in the Commonwealth, and to make the Commonwealth the type of place where you can affordably raise a family, run a business, and retire into. Again, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I guess I'll pick it up from here. First of all, thank you to Paul for the Fiscal Alliance Foundation and Beacon Hill Institute for hosting this morning, and continuing to really draw attention to the fact that inflation is crippling the working class family and people of Massachusetts. As Paul mentioned earlier, the legislature has not passed yet the $250 and $500 incentives yet that are going to be mailed out to families. And realistically, most people that are working in Massachusetts, I think if you're an average family in Massachusetts, the cost of your weekly groceries are probably between $300 and $500. So realistically, this is going to get people maybe a week's worth of food for a mom and a dad and a couple of kids. That's how the inflation has really just increased the cost of groceries that we all have to go out and purchase on a daily basis. As you're all aware, Massachusetts never enacted a gas tax break like most of our neighbors around us did. So there was never that help for working class people and families in the Commonwealth. And I think also too, we've seen several national studies and news stories about credit card debt. The American working person and families right now are literally drowning in credit card debt because they can't afford gasoline, they can't afford their groceries, they can't afford their prescription medications. And on top of that, the Fed actually raised interest rates to stop the recession that we're in right now. And so you have families with crippling charge card balances. The interest rates are growing up. They're drowning in debt. They're never going to be able to dig out of this. And the fact is that $250 and $500 is nowhere near enough of a tax reform to help working class peoples and families dig out of this mess that they're in right now. I think we're going to see a generation of people saddled with debt because of the inflation that we're facing right now. The other thing that no one is addressing is the fact of the home heating oil. We're talking about it on this call, but the fact is in just a few short months, we're going to be facing a harsh winter in New England. And for me, I know that every time I go to fill my oil tank, it's about $500. Not right now. This was before inflation. This fall, it's going to cost me close to $1,300 to fill my oil tank, and I'm worried about it. I know that my family is going to struggle to fill our oil tank and put heating and heat our home this fall. I've already received calls from senior citizens that can't afford their prescription medications. They're choosing between eating and getting the medicine they need to survive right now because inflation is crippling everyone across the Commonwealth. And we need real reforms here. During the budget, I filed several amendments that would have actually helped our farmers with a fuel tax rebate program to keep the cost of our food down here. I've heard from a number of farmers, not only in my district, but throughout the Commonwealth, who, when the trailer truck shows up with fuel, it used to be $5,000. Now it's $12,000 to put oil and fuel and diesel in their farm equipment, and they're being crippled as well. We haven't addressed that. Well, like I said, senior citizens are calling me saying, hey, we can't afford our prescription medicines right now. What do we do? Is there any help for us? Is there any relief? And the fact is there's not. So right now, the legislature hasn't taken any real measures, hasn't taken any real actions to help senior citizens, working people, and families in the Commonwealth address the inflation right now that is literally decimating their households. It's going to take 10 years to dig out of this, and nothing's being done about it. And in Western Massachusetts, we've seen what firsthand what has happened in Connecticut when they adopted a millionaire's tax. Businesses left the state, left and right. They headed south, they relocated, they moved their corporate headquarters so they could be able to afford. So when this happens as well, I just saw a news segment yesterday. Walmart is the largest grocer in the country. And because inflation is through the roof, people are now, they're struggling just to be able to afford groceries. So Walmart is actually slashing prices of all their products throughout the store, and it's going to cause an overall loss to their bottom line, which obviously impacts whether or not they can employ people. So they might start laying off people. We've seen layoffs already happen with other large corporations throughout the country because people don't have the purchasing power that they had 2 years ago. So this is going to continue to ripple through our economy. We haven't hit the fall yet, heading into a harsh winter. I think we're going to see people really struggling to heat their homes, put food on their table, and actually have the medicine they need to survive. And something needs to be done about it. So thank you again, Paul, and the Beacon Hill Institute, and all of my colleagues here today for drawing attention to this. I look forward to carrying on the work that we're doing.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate and all my colleagues. I mean, you guys have captured this very well. I mean, between the coming up in the fall with the colder weather coming in and the heating oil, that's going to be it's going to be a real hurt for the normal working class people, and obviously the people that are poor. And we got to do whatever we can to help provide relief at the state, especially when our coffers are doing so well. I mean, we even tried to just push through something as easy as the gas tax, which with our supplement, we could have filled back in that gas tax that we were going to lose, and make sure that our roads were taken care of, which if you talk about the roads and inflation, I mean, to update your roads now, it's tripled in cost just for the material and everything. It's really hard to keep up on that. But I mean, the big thing is that we, at least, and they always said that, you know, it's going to hurt our bond rating. And they said, oh, no, it's not. And then they said that, well, there's no guarantee the oil company's going to do it. Well, the oil company's going to do it. They lowered their rates in Connecticut. So, I mean, just a little relief on the gas tax and the oil tax, diesel tax would help a lot. I mean, you just put 10 gallons in, you're going to save $2.50. Well, $2.50 is a lot for a lot of people. I mean, who are trying to pay for their prescriptions, trying to pay for food, trying to buy that gallon of milk. You know, so again, I think, thank you, Paul, Fiscal Alliance and the Beacon Hill Institute for just highlighting what we all know we're feeling out there. And I'm not going to reiterate any more than my esteemed colleagues have already said, so I'll pass it over to Representative Zaros.
Thank you, Brother Pease and everyone. These are tough times, especially for tourism. And I represent, you know, the 5th Barnstable District. We call us the Fighting Fifth. And that's pretty much half of Cape Cod. So here we are in this beautiful summer, and we're hurting. And it's not just people that are really in need. It's your average person, the middle class, retirees, and veterans. So Cape Cod has a lot of veterans, retirees, middle class people, and they're hurting. You talked about the fuel costs. Imagine what it's like to fill a tank of gas and then try to pay for medicine on a limited income. We need to do better. I know that as Republicans, we fight hard every day on Beacon Hill and the People's House, and we'll continue to do it. We need your support. But I'll tell you, as a Gold Star father, you know, lost a son in war, as a former police officer, we need to do better. We need real tax breaks. You know, we should cut the gas tax. Those are things that we can do. And we've got to stop putting the burden on people in one area of our society. And I'll tell you a story that really gets me. We have grandparents that are taking care of, you know, babies. We have middle-class families that are struggling, and they're deciding on keeping their infant or their grand infant in diapers, dirty diapers all day to save money so they can pay for gas and food. And we need to do better than that in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where freedom started in the state, and we should make sure that we do better. And we should never have babies in dirty diapers because they can't afford to pay for fuel and food and medicine.
Well, thank you, their speakers. I want to open up to questions from anyone in the media. Just remember to unmute yourself. Maybe there's no questions. This will be a first.
We must have covered the topic pretty well.
Yeah.
Hey folks, how are you? Erin Tiernan from Mass Live here. I'm wondering if some of the representatives among us might pitch some solutions. I know you're saying the 250 being floated by the legislature is not enough. What would you like to see happen? What would provide some real relief?
I'll start us off there, because again, the gas tax, diesel tax, right? I mean, everything that's getting to the stores coming in by truck, by diesel, that's raising all the prices across the board. So providing that kind of relief would go a long ways. Also, just the gas tax. I mean, it seems like not a lot, but it adds up. And the other thing is, I think we could really provide relief. I mean, it's the middle class and the working families that are hurting, but it's really the retirees, as was highlighted. I mean, that are trying to do the prescription medicine and pay for their food. I was over at a couple's house yesterday, and they said, yeah, it's real struggle to pay for everything. So I think we could provide more relief to the retirees, the elderly, whether it's in some property tax breaks or oil relief, providing some kickbacks in fuel costs. But I'll let my colleagues jump in from here.
Yeah, I'll grab that. So Aaron, I mentioned earlier during the budget, I had filed a couple of amendments, and just two to keep it brief. One was a prescription drug rebate program for senior citizens living at the federal poverty level. And that would have provided them over the course of the year, they would have had to, a program would have been established. They would provide the receipts they paid for their prescription drug medicine and would be able to get a rebate at the end of the year, either on their taxes and get that money back. The other was a fuel tax rebate program, which would have included gasoline and diesel for farmers in the Commonwealth that actually produce food. So they would have had to provide receipts for diesel and gasoline for all farm machinery that use in the production of food here in the Commonwealth, keep our grocery prices down, help farmers who are actually producing food here. And both of those things did not pass. And that's just two examples of things that I offered back in April.
Erin, if I could chime in briefly, I will give you a very direct and simple item that we could take action on. The governor, and we have taken some action, that is an increase in the senior circuit breaker. Very simple, targeted to middle and lower income, both homeowners and renters who are elderly. And we could significantly increase that. The governor wanted to double it. And I would say I would go beyond doubling it. I'd boost it to several $1,000s, and that would have a direct impact on the ability of middle and lower income elderly individuals to stay in their homes, and it would mitigate significantly the impact of higher property taxes. So that is something we could do.
I know I'm not a state representative, but I would just like to jump in with another idea that I've had, Erin, rolling around. And one of the things that on a municipal level that I had considered was providing maybe an exemption on the excise tax for seniors on their principal vehicle. Particularly seniors that are on a fixed income. They've been paying, taxes, excise taxes for years and years and years. And I think that there's probably room in the budget where we could provide an excise tax exemption for at least one vehicle, the principal vehicle, for our seniors on fixed income.
Obviously, if you have any questions that couldn't be asked here, you can shoot me an email and we can follow up. Just a reminder, the study does point to some solutions, even though inflation is a global national problem, which again is to abandon the graduated income tax proposal, which will impact small businesses, and for the legislature to give back more money in a broad sense for the middle class, which, as I mentioned earlier, the conference committee still hasn't even spit out to their tax rebate proposal. And we only have a few more days before the session ends. So those are two ways the study points to do something to help inflation for people in Massachusetts. Thank you very much. I'll be mindful of everyone's time. It is 11:01. And we can conclude our press conference. Thank you all.
Thank you, Paul.
See ya.
Thanks, Paul.